Now, I have to ask this more of a lighthearted question. I'm a big hip hop fan.
Oh, okay.
Did Suge Knight have something to do with Biggie Smalls getting murdered?
I don't think he did, no.
No, okay. I had to ask.
I thought you were going to ask me about my relationship with the game.
One of your first major moves was halting the merit promotion system. Now, rank and file have had their gripes about merit for years, almost since its inception. Why was that one of your first big decisions in your role?
I saw this as a way to make a statement about the values of CPD, and as something that, as you said earlier, might be easier for an interim to do than full-time.
Several aldermen, black and Latino aldermen, have expressed concern that without the merit promotion system, it might be harder to advance minority candidates through the ranks of the department. I realized just yesterday, 2 African Americans were promoted to deputy chief within the department. But what would you say to those aldermen who are concerned that this might have a chilling effect?
Well, that's not what's happened in other cities in America that have different kinds of testing. You know, you have to make sure your testing is fair, is given consistently, not with huge gaps in time, like has been the norm in Chicago. You got to make sure that you monitor it to make sure to ensure that you're getting the right results. And with that kind of system, there's no reason that the promotional system cannot be equitable. You know, the discipline system in CPD is very different than the discipline system in LA. You know, the chief in Los Angeles is solely accountable for just discipline, all of it. In CPD, as you know, it's very diversified.
Does that create more accountability, do you think, to have the chief as the sole disciplinarian? Like, I'm asking you, is the LA system for discipline better than Chicago's?
Well, it's certainly more direct, you know, and because there's only one person responsible rather than several, it is quicker, you know. And so I think I know how Chicago got to where it is on this. And I don't see it changing. It's just different. So it's especially for somebody that sees all of them like I did as chief in Los Angeles. It's just a very different way of handling it. So I just have to get used to that.
Play the cards you're dealt.
What's that?
Play the cards you're dealt.
Yeah, I can't. I do not have time to fix this, and I don't know that. And I don't really know that "fix" is the right word. You know, I know how Chicago got here. You know, and so I got to respect that history, and that just may be the way it has to be here. But I do think that COPA and the other organizations that assist in investigating police issues and the CPD can have a much better relationship, and I think that might be the best fix, and I can work on that.
And how would you do that?
Well, just by outreach, talking to folks, by maybe being more forthcoming. You know, I'm a very collaborative person, so I think that we can set the stage for much more cooperation. I think if anybody was honest, they would say that there's been some standoffishness.
In Los Angeles, you had obviously experience overseeing a police department in a state where marijuana consumption was legal. Have you imparted any sort of wisdom towards your department leadership, rank and file, how to best enforce the new law in a couple weeks?
Well, I told him you have to recognize that you know this is there. You have to come to grips with a big change in your thinking. It's like after Prohibition. You know, it's just not. It is. Although I don't go back that far. You just have to come to grips with a new way of thinking about the use of cannabis, and you know it's not meant to disrespect you. It's the new law, and that's just the way it is. I did warn them that you know we saw a lot of violence in conjunction with robberies at our marijuana sales locations, you know, and so we had to be ready for that. But the main thing is that you know there will be a lot of celebrating the first few days, but then it will calm down. And if you want to know the truth, I don't think any more people smoke marijuana in Los Angeles now that it's legal than did before it was legal. I think we just took away a block that made people operate outside the law for doing something that's relatively normal.
The LAPD, what was the working relationship during your tenure with ICE and Homeland Security?
Well, my tenure had a long span, so.
Yeah, fair. Your tenure in a leadership position.
Okay, my tenure as chief. All right. Los Angeles is a city made up of immigrants. It is over 50% Hispanic. My police department was over 50% Hispanic when I left. Most of them who had ties to people that may or may not have been in the country illegally or came in illegally initially. We're within 90 miles of the Mexican border. We made sure we kept ICE at an appropriate distance, and actually that we had some contentious moments with ICE because of, but they, the folks that work ICE, I have some sympathy for them because I don't know that they totally believe in what they're being told to do. But I certainly ascribe to the philosophy that police departments are here to enforce criminal laws. Your residency is not a criminal law. It is an administrative violation. That's not our job. And if we do that, we will alienate the people that we are here to protect. Another part of my philosophy is if you're in Chicago, if you're driving through, if you live here, if you work here, you're my responsibility. I don't care where you were born. I don't care what language your parents speak. I don't care about any of that.
What do you think the relationship between a police department and the FOP should be? Ideally, what would that relationship look like?
Well, I think that, and I told Kevin this, the president of FOP. I think that we should work together. We both want the same thing. I want a place where every one of their employees values their job, that thinks that they're being well treated, and wants to come to work every day.
Now, leadership of the FOP would argue right now that that's been a far cry from reality. The FOP has dug in its heels, kicking against most reforms that have been implemented by the department over the last few years. How do you overcome that?
Well, you have to. Whenever there is something that is whenever you run into a problem that has sides of it that will never go away, and the FOP will never go away, then you have to work for change and collaboration in different ways. So, I have to look at the FOP's agenda and see what are some pieces that I can do that fall within my philosophy and also meet their requirements. And, if I can get them to collaborate on those things, then we can collaborate on the other things. You got to build a relationship. So you can't, especially with a union, you can't just come in and dictate to them and expect to get anything. But you can come in and look at what it is that they want and see what's possible to give them. And then, if the relationship is right, then they'll come back to you with the same thing. And I think a lot of it is the core belief that we're looking for the same thing, which is a better police department.